It's been around 2.5 weeks after the release of the fast-paced arena-based shooter that swallows you whole and spits you out right in some 2010s Call of Duty nostalgia, called XDefiant, alias the Call of Duty Killer. And what a successful start it had, reaching 1 million unique players within 2.5 hours of launch, making it Ubisoft's fastest ever game to reach 1 million unique players. The launch didn't come without some bumps in the road due to server issues, where players had issues finding a match for the first 8 to 10 hours. Yet, only 48 hours after launch, the game had reached 3 million unique players and around 300,000 concurrent players across all platforms. Now that we had some time to get familiar with the game, it's clear it has a lot of potential, but will it live up to it? The perfect time to take a look at the good, the bad, and the future. Let's get the obvious known major plus side out of the way first. The game has no skill-based matchmaking besides the welcome playlist, which is meant to get players familiar with the game in its first 25 levels. And people, including me, love it. Look, I don't want to be in a state of hyper-focused rage all the time with a waterfall of sweat drenching between my butt crack until I go clinically insane, walk to the couch and stare at the roof defeating for the next 30 minutes. No, some games are chill, laid back, others you lose heart and some require some effort. The gameplay itself feels like going back to the golden days of the Call of Duty franchise, where instead of the trend chaser, Call of Duty was still the trend setter. Playing the game feels like being on that constant drug of fast and engaging gameplay where you could play for hours and hours without noticing you skipped sleep and had to be in school like an hour ago. The maps look unique, well designed and have some really nice bright colors to it. Whereas a lot of modern shooters like for example Call of Duty go for less bright coloring to paint a more grim and realistic look. With gameplay that feels a lot more realistic as well, but a lot slower too. So obviously the movement contributes big time to the fast vibe. And it has to be done right. And to a certain degree it is done right, but it may just be a little much. In general the movement speed is fast. You get an unlimited sprint and a slide. You're able to do several bunny hops until you start slowing down, but do a quick sprint to reset it and you can keep hopping around. And I'm aware that for most people this is the main concern. Just like how jumping around during gunfights shouldn't be the dominant move, because all the tricks at your display should be balanced. Not to worry though, both of these issues should be fixed in the upcoming patch. So far so good. Movement is literally what makes a fast-paced shooter like XDefiant so fun to play. My concern however mostly comes from combining it with air strafing. The ability to literally change direction mid-air. Picture this scenario. Little Timmy just got out of school early, ready to chug his 4th Red Bull of the day. Now little Timmy here, he has time on his hands and is on his way to become somewhat of an esports superhero. Unfortunately for you, you run into Timmy in one of your lobbies who mastered his movement and ends up jump shooting you right around the corner. So naturally you try to follow his aerial pattern, but the little ninja Timmy changes direction mid-air. My point is, little Timmy shouldn't be drinking so much Red Bull at his age. Besides that, there's no downside to what jump shots usually have. Yes, you get harder to hit because you have the upside of maintaining your speed and gain some vertical momentum. The trait usually is that you're locked into a predictable aerial pattern that at least gives the other player a chance to fight back. I've played a lot of Apex Legends in the past, and for those of you that know, some people straight up turn into Magic Mikes, like it's one of those old cartoon shows where the venom sprays at your feet and you're dancing between bullets. All I'm saying is, I absolutely think these kind of movement mechanics should remain in a game like XDefiant. I think that a longer time to kill adds up to the movement experience as well, since you get more time to be creative and get away. But yeah, like I said before, if it gets a little too much, a little too crazy, you might risk creating a bigger gap between players, and it might eventually turn the more casual players down. Now if you pair this with the netcode and the hit registration issues the game has right now, it can turn into a frustrating experience at times. It's no surprise at this point, but in the upcoming patch next week we should see improvement in the netcode and the hit registration. I'm just glad the developers keep such a tight notice of what community wants and keeps you updating about the upcoming changes. So I trust in the holy and sacred word of Mark Rubin and will patiently wait for them to get it right, because it is such a hard task to tackle. My only point of concern is that these issues have been around since the beta too, meaning it's taken them a while to fix it, and if they stay around for too long, it might eventually turn some people down as well. In all honesty though, the game is still pretty young, and with developers that care and a loving community, I'm sure everyone will be patient. And then finally, I want to take a look at the future. XDefiant is a game that heavily relies on the nostalgic factor. It's supposed to feel like an old Call of Duty experience, supposed to pull players in that over the years turned away from Call of Duty, because it's such a distant experience of what it once was. Then there's the nostalgia from other Ubisoft titles, as we can see from factions, characters and maps. The risk of relying too much on nostalgia is that a game doesn't necessarily bring something révolutionnaire to the table, so instead you have to get a very enjoyable, reliable and polished experience. So therefore, I believe that a good ranking system will determine a great deal for the future of XDefiant. So people can have the choice between a casual and a more competitive option for gameplay to grind some elo, maybe have some tournaments going. Before they can do that though, they need to make their game function as intended first. I'm especially curious about how the hero abilities will turn out in ranked. In casual, people don't really make the best use of them and just Leroy through their abilities, while in ranked you need coordination. That's exactly the point where we will see if the abilities add up to a better experience and if some are too strong or maybe need some slight adjustments. And then there's the seasonal content, like for example new game modes, new maps, new factions and new characters that will keep the gameplay experience refreshing. But in my humble opinion, I think XDefiant is here to stay in the long run. The developers are working hard to make the game as flawless as possible and are really open towards the community. And for that reason we as community will patiently wait for them to get it right. And I really hope you had as much of a blast from playing this game as I have. Yeah, because shit dude, at this point I wouldn't be surprised if my friends put out some sort of Amber Alert because I went missing. Not that they will miss me or did miss me at all, but anyway, I'm getting distracted. See you later.